I did want to talk about a potential interim head coaching candidate and the craziness with his defense. So apparently, like if Adam Gase does get fired, I think the leading interim candidate would be Gregg Williams. And his defense yesterday was basically just headhunting, especially towards the end of that game. Vic Fangio told his players to run off the field after those really unnecessary hits on Brett Ripien towards the end of the game that were absolutely brutal. So Vic Fangio told his players to just leave the field, to not have any confrontation, because Vic Fangio was certainly heated after that. Brendan, your thoughts on those hits at the end of the game and pretty much the Jets' ridiculously aggressive defense, which caused them pretty much a lot of penalties and maybe even the game towards the end?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it feels like the Jets were getting very upset with the way that how poorly they were playing. And a lot of that looked like aggression. I feel like we're gonna assume that it's Gregg Williams telling them to go out there and headhunt because of his past. I don't think it's fair to put that on him unless we find out like actual evidence that he was saying, "Hey, go out there and take him out." But those players were not the defense for the Jets. They were not playing with any on those last couple plays. We're not playing with any like level of regard for safety for Ripien. Like there was one play, I believe it was the play that led to kind of some of the jawing between the Broncos and the Jets, where the corner, I believe it was one of the D-line, I think, came free on a blitz, and Ripien got the ball off right before he was hit, and he threw it, and then there was a good maybe 2 or 3 seconds after he threw it, and then he got just like shoulder charged, basically, not even trying to wrap him up. He just kind of went while still going full force, knocking him down. And to me, that was just that's a blatant dirty play. I do see, so like on the post-game show, Joe Thomas was talking about like, oh, if you don't want your quarterback getting hit as an offensive lineman, do better. Like you need to do a better job of stopping the defense. No, that's like I get where he's coming from as like arguably the best center to play the game in the last like 20 years. But it just shouldn't be even a thought. Like when you play it goes back to what everybody was talking about last week with Chris Carson getting gator rolled, and everybody coming out to his defense and being like, look, like you don't do that shit in football. Like I believe I forget his name, he played for the Cowboys, but now he's a commentator for ESPN on the Monday Night Countdown pre-show for the Monday Night Football. I think it's like Marcus Lawrence or something. But basically he was saying like, when you're on the field, you're trying to tackle, you're trying to stop them. You're not trying to hurt them. It is a brotherhood of football. You have a written rules where you're on the field. You are never ever trying to actively hurt someone. That should not be your goal. Like after the game, you shake hands, you pray together, you basically be like, good game, and you hope everybody walks off the field like fine. Sometimes I feel like in this sport there are players who kind of forget about that aspect of it, and I think at the end of the game, that was kind of what it was looking like. It was sloppy, it was ridiculous, and Gregg Williams needs to know better because he is the coach of the defense. At the end of the day, that is his job. His job is to make sure his players are mentally okay. Because if you are not mentally okay to step on that field, you should not be allowed to step on the field, especially as the game is winding down, where you might be more of the mindset to just go out there and hit someone. And I say that because when I played football, I was a defensive lineman. And my designation, I played nose guard. I also was put on the outside to blitz freely when they're like no one out there. So I know what it's like to just have a clear shot at the quarterback and be like wanting to hit them. But at the end of the day, you can't do that.
And so a couple of things as well. We didn't talk about the Chris Carson Gator roll thing. Originally, when I saw it, I didn't think much of it, and I saw a replay, and it was really bad. It was unnecessary and stupid. And then what also frustrated me with the Jets as well, and I'll go to Shane to sort of finish off this discussion, but what frustrated me was it was like a minute left in the game. They're up by 11. The game's clearly over. Like, why are you trying to even do anything? Like, the fact that they called a pass play, I don't really like. But again, it's the culture of the game. It's a passing league anyway. Just let your corners do the thing and don't worry about hitting him, or at least just wrap him up and don't hit him like the Jets did. Like, I don't understand when you're like literally down by 11. Why would you? I don't know. Like, why would you be that aggressive? It's just mind-boggling to me. Shane, to sort of conclude that discussion, what are your thoughts on Brandon's comments here?
Yeah, I'm with Brennan. Especially as a football player, especially when you are, when you're on a losing streak and you're frustrated and whatever else, and you get aggressive, especially towards the end. You get worn down. It's understandable why somebody would want to go there mentally, all things considered, but you can't. I mean, there's no place for it, and I mean, it's just the situation, especially the situation, the game was over, like Brandon said, and it's just very uncalled for. But that stuff will happen. It's been happening. Seems like a lot this year, for whatever reason. But it is what it is, I guess. And we gotta just deal with it as it happens and hope that people don't keep on doing that, because you continue that and it just leads to injuries and whatever, which you don't want. I mean, that's bad, really bad. And that already has happened to a lot of people. So,
and I would just say, just to follow up real quick. I personally believe you were saying, like, we don't know, like, why we're seeing more of these injuries, like, not injuries, but more of these, like, aggressive plays and, like, dumb plays. Again, one aspect that I'm starting to realize is more and more, and I hope the coaches are realizing this, is it's important to have those preseason games, maybe like two games at most, just to kind of get the ability to teach players. We also didn't have training camp, we didn't have mini camp, we didn't have OTAs. We had training. We didn't have a full training camp. We didn't have OTAs. We didn't have mini camp. We didn't have
rookie mini camp.
We didn't have rookie mini camp. And I think what we're seeing here is, as media and as people who have at times we've asked the question, is it important to have these mini camps, rookie mini camps, OTAs, preseason games? With the combination of dumb penalties and injuries we're seeing, I believe the result is, yes, you do need to have at least 2 preseason games, because not only does it get the body, or hell, if you don't want to do preseason games, do scrimmages between teams at their sites,
which they've already done for a long time, except it causes fights.
But do like full on like pad, because I'm telling you, these injuries would go away if you had the players actually getting their bodies warmed up before they went full speed hitting each other.
So much of this is tackling technique, right? And of course, more coaches, especially like Pete Carroll's been an interesting example with him, of course, locally, talking about tackling techniques and all these things. I think the preseason stuff is pretty warranted now in terms of, and they were talking about on the broadcast last night about all these hamstring injuries as well, these hamstring pulls, things of that nature. And, one of the other interesting aspects is every preseason we have a player or two, guys trying to make the roster or something like that, make some of these boneheaded hits and boneheaded plays. And it's used as an example across the league to say, hey, don't do this. Sometimes, unfortunately, we get those examples from players, especially players who are trying to make the roster every year. And these are things that are used. These are tapes that are used by coaches, not only of that team, but across the league, about how to do these proper techniques and all of these things as well. So, yeah, definitely an interesting conversation there for sure.